What is happening, mediocre people of YouTube? So I'm kind of looking for some advice from reputable amp guys, builders, whatever you want to call it. I've just kind of got my, I'm retrofitting this chassis, so this is tough, because it's not going into a regular Deluxe 5v3 Deluxe chassis, and I'm retrofitting this in the hope, if I don't have to turn this whole thing over, you can see where the pots are there, and I plan to put a piece of metal in here. If you can see where, am I even pointing the camera towards me? A piece of metal in here where I can put another pot in. Basically, the 4 potentiometers, my hope is to be able to fit them in place with this radio cabinet, which is the chassis that you're looking at on the bench, is the chassis that goes into this cabinet. I'd also like to put the pilot light up here where it was originally with the radio. That's one concern, because here you are running heater wires up into the top of this. I mean, that's a 3-inch stretch. You're going up, and I know they're twisted and all that good stuff, but anyway, other than that, I was kind of laying things out a little bit, trying to get an idea of how I want to lay this out. I know these wires are just stuck in here. It looks ridiculous. It's just because I'm just trying to figure out, because these wires, I know where these wires are going. So I'm trying to figure out, how to best go about that. So this board, which obviously I need to change this ground here a little bit, and these filter caps, because I do not want these connected over here. I did that. I was following Rob Rob Deluxe layout, and I suppose that's how he did his ground bus, but I'm not doing mine that way, because I'm doing it the way Fender did it, because the way Fender did it works. So all that being said, so this board would be going in like so. So you kind of imagine, well, this board was going in, but it's gonna be flipped over. So it's going in like so, right? So my hope was, because I'm trying to retrofit this, I was kind of thinking of putting my 4 input jacks here and my 2 output jacks here. Switches over on this side, fuse holder. I'm concerned about running my signal past these 12AX7s here, but I can do it with shielded cable, I think, and well, my question is what do you think? You think that's going to introduce noise? I know this is, again, we're retrofitting a radio chassis here, and again, there's going to be, you got these 2 pots here, and then there's going to be, how is the layout? There's going to be one down in here, a 3rd pot here, and a 4th pot right about here. Like I said, I'm going to put a piece of metal in order to retrofit that potentiometer. And I know to do, the thing to do is keep everything as close to the chassis as I can. A little concerned about these extra holes. And what I'm going to do is, this chassis did not have a bottom metal plate to it. So I'm going to make a metal plate for the bottom of it, so it'll be enclosed. So maybe that's the way to go, is to run stuff down onto that the bottom of the chassis. So again, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here as far as the ground goes. And I just caught this last night I was actually watching Mojo Tone building their 5E3. So I'm building a 5E3, but it's a Rob Deluxe 5E3. So it's got a couple of modifications. It has a lead channel and a normal channel, but it's got a couple of modifications on it. I'm not going to do the 10% power switch. I'm going to leave that alone, as well as the feedback switch. I'm going to leave that out of my amp, I believe. Although that would be kind of cool. But anyway, we'll think about that. I'm taking my time on this. I'm in no big rush. Here's the ground scheme I was talking about. On Rob's layout, he just has a ground bus going all the way across, which is how, when I built my board, and hey, be nice, this is my first board, you know, I went ahead and followed Rob's. God, I don't like that. It's not straight. I don't even like the way this ground bus looks. But anyway, I was following Rob's layout on that, and when I was watching Mojo Tone wiring up their 5E3, he actually pointed out the ground here and how don't be lazy and just do a ground bust all the way through here. Do it the way Fender did it. There's a reason for it, because, you know, you got your first set of filter capacitors here, and if that's connected, that ground's connected, excuse me, to your preamp, you know, all that noise is, you know, could definitely go through. So this is the quietest way to do it, is the way he explained. And I believe that because I've heard other reputable amp guys on YouTube talk about, you know, the piece of advice I got last week when I brought it up to Psionic Audio, was to just make sure I ground it the way Leo did it. That's what he said, and you should be just fine. Although, you know, the one I'm building is a little more complex. Not really all that much more complex. So, just kind of showing you guys, you know, I've started here. I got the board soldered together. It's now, you know, I'm setting it aside, and I'm trying to figure out how I want to do this chassis, because I have to drill a bunch of holes in it for input and output jacks. I got to get these holes a little bit better here for the 12AX7 tubes that'll be going in here. Maybe not. That might fit just fine right there. So yeah. So I'm power cord in here, you know, in this area. Planning on the power cord going in. Fuse and power and standby switches, although, you know, I've been told over and over that it does not need a standby switch, and maybe I won't do a standby switch in mine. Anyway, but going on here, regardless of whether I do a standby switch or not, you know, I was kind of planning on putting my output jacks right here and my 4 input jacks here. That will give me access from the back of the cabinet to plug a guitar in. So that's the thinking behind that, in case you did not know. So there's the back of the chassis. Let me turn it around. Okay, so here's the front of the chassis. And like I said before, these two potentiometers that are in place are lined up with the holes in the cabinet. So there will be, I'm going to add a piece of metal that comes up here. Another potentiometer is going to be right in that area, in that hole. And then there will be another potentiometer right about here, in order to fit the radio cabinet. And then again, what I wanted to speak on, and let me grab a, here we go, here's actually the original light. I wanted to put my pilot light in this area and I hesitate to, you know, not hesitate, but I want to think about how I run those heater wires, because that's a pretty good stretch. You know, that's probably 3 inches, 4 inches, you know, from the top down back into the chassis. So this dial, I'm going to keep this dial, and I'm going to somehow mount this dial into the cabinet, and then it'll light up. You know what I mean? Let's just go back and look at the cabinet for a second. So that dial would have been right in this area, and you know, when you turn the radio on, it would have lit up. Let's get a, just for shits and giggles, that's a Zenith cabinet there. That's a radio I restored there. So it's a little bit smaller cabinet. Let's turn it around just for shits and giggles. So, you know, we have a lot of room. You know, you see where the chassis sat. Those 4 holes right there, that's where the chassis sat. You can see where it sat. So we've got a lot of room on either side, and we're going to have plenty of room for one 12-inch speaker inside. So I've got a lot of room here to work with. Now, I could get a 5E3 chassis, a regular 5E3 chassis, and put in here and retrofit it like that. And maybe that's the better way to go, because later on, if I decide to either purchase or build a Tweed cabinet, I can always put it in there for the sake of sales if I ever wanted to sell it, because it certainly would be worth much more in a Tweed cabinet than it would be in this giant radio cabinet. So these are things to think about. You know, I could purchase a 5E3 chassis and put it in here and just modify and cut the board in here, because this is actually screwed down. It's like a baffle in there, so I could even take that out so that I could cut it perfectly to fit a Fender chassis. You know, this radio cabinet isn't worth anything. You know, if it was worth anything, I wouldn't be talking about cutting it up and modify it and everything else. My understanding is that back in the day that probably had legs on it, and as time went on, it became more, people liked it to be right on the floor, so the legs were probably cut off of that. And these things are not worth what you might think. These radios, this is a completely restored, functioning Zenith radio from the 40s. And you know, I mean, if you could get, you know, $150 for that, completely restored. The only thing it's missing is the wheel, which I should just order today. I've been talking about ordering it forever. You know, if you got $150 for that, you'd be in real good shape. In the meantime, that's a 6v6 push-pull amplifier in there that could be converted into a guitar amplifier, a very good sounding guitar amplifier easily. It has one 14-inch speaker in it. So that's where I'm at. I've built my board, and now I'm trying to lay this out so that I can start drilling holes and patching holes and figuring out if this is gonna work the way I would like it to work. So there, I figured I'd show my viewers that, and if there's any amp guys that have comment on it that would potentially help me, that would be wonderful. Yeah, that's where I'm at. Let's turn this around again. So yeah, my plan is to put my rectifier tube, rectifier 6v6, 6v6, my 212AX7s, and then my input jacks here and my output jacks there. You know, fuse holder, power switch, standby switch, or just power switch, doesn't really matter. But yeah, so any amp guys that happen to see this, give me your thoughts on it, and anything that potential, you know, things that you might do that might help me out. I'm a newbie, so I can take all the help I can get, right? Alright guys, until next time, peace out.